Hi, I'm Nicole Bergeron, and today I'll be talking to you about tort liability for Ed Law 850, Module 13. Tort law concerns the civil wrongs and addresses the duty, breach, and injury sustained to one individual as a result of another's conduct. What is tort liability? Tort liability is individuals are responsible for the consequences of their conduct. There's two kinds of tort, intentional and negligent. Intentional tort is offense committed by an individual who tends to do harm to another person, like battery or assault. Battery involves physical contact. Assault does not have to involve physical contact. Negligent tort is inability to perform duty which causes injury to others. So I'll be talking to you about several cases today. The first case is Scott versus Rapides Parish School Board. In this case, an 18-year-old senior decided to try out for the track team for the first time. He had never been on the track team. He was at practice and doing very well, and the coach didn't think he needed any extra instruction. So at practice one day, he was doing several jumps, and when he landed on his knee and hurt himself. Hurt his knee very badly, where he couldn't play sports anymore. So in this instance, the trial judge applied a duty risk assessment and concluded that all elements were proved. The court found the failure of the coach to properly prepare and instruct Scott was the cause, in fact, of his injuries. He was awarded $207,000. The school board appealed to the state Supreme Court, but it was denied. In this case, reactive things we could do is, of course, immediate medical attention for the injured student, follow district protocols and procedures, and review safety and supervision policies. Proactive, meeting with students and parents before the start of an athletic season to go over procedures, safety, and protocols, and safety training for all students, coaches, and sports staff before the start of an athletic season. Professionally, ensure all coaches and PE teachers have training to help prevent injuries, have coaches and PE teachers perform risk assessments for activities, ensure proper supervision of students during athletic practices, games, and PE classes to prevent injuries. The second case is Frame versus Como. In this case, a substitute teacher was giving a spelling test, and several students were being disruptive. The substitute asked those students to leave the classroom. All of them did except for one, and the student continued to be disruptive. So the substitute went over to the student. As the substitute tried to put his hand on the student to lead him out of class, the student was getting up, and in the process, the student ended up falling and hitting his head. So this case, the court found that although Como, who was the substitute, committed a battery, he was justified in doing so. Frame's actions were apparently sufficient to provoke Como to forcibly remove Frame from the class. Moreover, the court found that it was necessary for Como to remove Frame not only to maintain order, but to also facilitate the learning process. So, yes, the court said Como, the substitute, did commit battery, but Frame, the student, was so disruptive, he needed to be removed from the class. So they said his actions were justified, and the student did not win. So, reactive things for this case: have all the staff involved immediately write up the incident, write what they saw, what they recall, have students that were witnesses write what they saw, talk through district policies with staff, and review policies for removing disruptive students from class. Proactive, have policies and procedures for teachers, staff, and substitute teachers for handling discipline and removing students from class. Have training and in-service for all staff and substitutes on handling discipline and removing students from class. And have an in-service to cover tort laws. Many teachers do not know all that is involved with tort law and tort liability. Professionally, ensure that students know the expectations of your classroom, and the expectations are the same whether you're there or not. And remember, at times it may be necessary to remove a student from a classroom, not only to maintain order, but also to facilitate the learning process. However, if you remove a student from a classroom, you need to make sure that you are doing it following the school procedure and the district procedure, and that you are not setting yourself up for a lawsuit, and you're not putting your hands on that student. The next case is Mitchell versus Cedar Rapids Community School District. In this case, a special education student who had severe needs decided not to go to class, and she was supposed to go home with a friend. She and her friend ended up going to that house, but then she met up with a boy and ended up getting taken somewhere, and she was sexually assaulted by the boy, which was also a special education student, while his friend was shooting at her with a BB gun through a window. So this case, the mother of the special education student sued the school district for damages the student sustained in an after-hours off-campus sexual assault by another student. A jury found the school district negligent in failing to adequately supervise the special education student and awarded damages. Now, although the court said the school was not responsible for the sexual assault, the boy was charged and found guilty of that, of course. But they were responsible for making sure that she was in class and that her mother was notified. And when she was not in class, someone should have informed her mother. And it just so happened that the class that she missed was one with her special education teacher. So that should have been a red flag, and someone should have started looking for her. So reactive things we could do for this case is follow district procedures for student absences. Also, when a special education student is not in class, teachers or the paraprofessional assigned to that student should be looking for the student and notify the parents immediately. Proactive. Create a system for monitoring special education students' attendance and notifying parents. Review policies regarding special education students with the entire staff and set clear expectations for staff on how to deal with attendance issues, and also set up additional security measures at the school. Professionally, just remember that teachers have a duty to anticipate the dangers to the students and take steps to minimize those dangers. And we need to make sure that we are following and we are adequately supervising students, especially those students with special needs. The next case is Flanagan versus Canton. In this case, it was during a PE class, and the kids were very disruptive and misbehaving. So the teacher dismissed them and sent them to the locker room to change. The teacher stayed in the gym with another student talking to that student, and the rest of the kids were in the locker room. The rest of the boys were in the locker room. In the process, one of the boys was pushed from behind, and he hit his head on a locker and a bench and was injured. So in this case, the court recognized that the school has a duty to adequately supervise the students. It is not an insurer of the student's safety. Of course, that just means, yes, you're supposed to supervise the students, but you can't always say that they're going to be in perfect health and everything's going to be perfectly fine, because accidents do happen. However, the court sided with Flanagan and reasoned that because the students were misbehaving the day of the incident, the teacher owed a greater duty to supervise the students, especially because their conduct was foreseeable. In other words, the kids were already misbehaving. The teacher should not have left them alone. He should have been there to watch and make sure that nothing happened. They needed more supervision because of their behavior. So some reactive things for this case: the student, of course, will receive immediate medical attention, follow district policy and notify the district administration, notify the parents, and take statements from the staff that was involved and students who are witnesses. Proactive, provide training for teachers and staff on the importance of supervision, discuss what could be considered negligence or tort liability, and create a supervision plan for places where adequate supervision is necessary, like the playground, the lunchroom, gym, hallways, and other problem areas. And just remember, professionally, although educators cannot guarantee safety, in all situations they are required to foresee the possible consequences of their own action and take steps to provide a safe learning environment. You just need to make sure that the safety of your students is your most important thing. Make sure they're safe and secure. You have to be able to foresee accidents that might happen. The last case is Johnson versus School District of Miller. In this case, a music teacher had a first grade class with her, and she decided to teach them how to play London Bridge. She gave them the instructions, showed them what to do, and she wasn't really supervising them well when one of the students was swung by the other kids during the game. He fell and hit his head. So in this case, the trial court held that the teacher's mere instruction to the first grade children on how to play the game without direct supervision during at least the early portions of the game were negligent supervision, meaning she should have been watching more carefully because they were just learning how to play this game. They hadn't played it before. So she should have been supervising better than just walking around the room. Secondly, the court found that as a result of the accident, Johnson sustained an injury and damages and awarded him $1,226.10 for medical expenses and $15,000 for permanent disfigurement and $5,000 for pain and suffering. So some reactive things for this case, of course, immediate medical attention for this student, notify parents and fill out an accident report, and review the district policy of supervision. Proactive, supervise the students at all times, ensure student safety at all times, and rules and expectations for class and games need to be explained to the students. Professionally, teachers must supervise students at all times and during all games and activities. As a kindergarten teacher, it's very hard to always see what's going to happen. You may be doing something and you're right there and you turn around for a second to see what another kid is doing, or another kid's asking you a question and someone gets hurt. It happens. It's life. That's what happens. But you need to make sure that you have everything in place, that you are following procedures, and you are trying to keep your kids safe at all the time. All the time. Remember, teachers are expected to exercise a level of care according to the age, maturity, experience, and mental capacity of the students and the nature of learning activities in which they are involved. Think about how old the kids are, think about what the activity is, and what you need to do to make sure everyone is safe and procedures are followed. So with this module, I learned a lot. There were things I did not know, especially about tort law, and it was very informative. And I think all teachers should have to go through a training about this, because there are things that happen that we would not know about, and there's different wordings in the law that could also hurt us if we're not careful. So here are my references, and thank you for listening.